Hello, children. Today we are going to do the poem The Patriot, written by Robert Browning. Now, Robert Browning was born in Italy in the year 1812. He was greatly influenced by the famous poets Shelley, Byron, and Keats. He got married to Elizabeth Barrett in the year 1846, who was a contemporary senior poet, and she had a lasting influence on him. He lived with her at Florence in Italy till she died in the year 1861. Now, after her death, he settled down in London. So, he is one of the most important Victorian poets. Now, he perfected in a poetic form which is known as the dramatic monologue. Now, dramatic monologue is a poem in which one character speaks throughout, but the presence of one or more characters is felt. Now I'll tell you the brief summary of the poem, The Patriot. Now this poem, it seems to have been the result of Browning's experience of the rise and fall of the heroes in Italy's premature struggle to free herself from Austria during the period 1841 to 1849. The patriot in the poem had heroic achievements a year ago. He was accorded a very warm welcome on his return home, but just after a year he has fallen in esteem. He is arrested and he is being led to the gallows. People now simply hate him. Some even hurl stones at him. Despite his fall, he is optimistic. He feels that God would reward him in the heavens above, while people have failed to recognize his services. God is the only shelter for those who are betrayed and deserted by their fellow human beings. So this is the brief summary of the poem, that is The Patriot. So now let us start with the line-wise paraphrasing. The first stanza, it was roses, roses all the way, with myrtle mixed in my path like mad. So the patriot, that is the speaker of the poem, he is narrating the story of his golden past. He remembers the day, that is 1 year ago, when he was given a grand welcome on his arrival to the town. He says, there were roses and roses strewn in my path. There was myrtle mixed with roses on my path. The house roof seemed to heave and sway. Heave means to breathe heavily and sway means to rise and fall. Here the roofs of the houses, they have been personified as live human beings who are able to breathe, who are able to move to and fro and rise and fall. So he means to say the roofs of the houses, they were full of people. There was a huge crowd of people who were gathered together on the roof of the houses, and the roofs, they seem to move, they seem to be breathing heavily because of so many people. The church spires flamed. Now the spires, children, it is the conical or the pyramidal structure on the top of the building. Generally on top of the churches we have the spires. So the church spires, they were flaming. They were flaming means they were beautifully decorated with such flags. They had means decorated with the victory flags. A year ago on this very day, and the speaker says he got this grand welcome 1 year ago on this very day. So he remembers that warm welcome given to him by his countrymen. So second stanza, the air broke into a mist with bells. Now the second stanza, it is an extension of the first. It tells us of the attitude of the people on the patriot's arrival. He says, well, the church bells were ringing loudly, which rang to welcome the patriot bell back home. The old walls rocked. The old walls means the old walls of the buildings. Rocked means they seemed to be shaken with the crowd. That is, a large crowd of people had gathered in the buildings. So the old walls of the buildings, they seem to be shaking with the crowd and cries, and their loud cries. Had I said good folk, mere noise repels. He said they loved me so much at that moment that if I had told them that good folk means good people, the mere noise, the screaming and the shouting you are doing, it repels, means it is hateful. But give me your son from yonder skies. But instead of screaming and shouting and applauding me, give me the sun from the skies over there. Yonder means over there. Give me the sun from there. Now this is the use of hyperbole, that is exaggeration. The speaker asking the people to give him the sun. They had answered, and if he had asked the people to give him the sun, they would have answered. And afterward, what else? That after we give you the sun, what else do you want? So beautiful use of hyperbole. Now third stanza, alack. Alack means alas. It was I who leaped at the sun. He says, it was alas, it was I who jumped, who tried all things impossible. That is, I was the one who leaped at the sun. I tried to do something to a great extent, going beyond my limits, to give it my loving friends to keep, to do something for my friends. I was the one who leaped at the sun. I crossed all my boundaries. I was the one who did this, to give it my loving friends to keep. Now here he is referring to the allusion to the mythological creature, that is Icarus, who was the son of Daedalus. He dared to fly very close to the sun, and when he reached close to the sun, his wings, which were made up of wax, they melted, and as a result he plunged to death in the sea. He died. Not man could do have I left undone means nothing that a man could do, I have not done it. I have tried everything possible to be done by a man. And you see my harvest? Harvest means reward. And do you see my reward? What I reap this very day, now a year is run. So the speaker is now feeling very dejected at his harvest, and he says, everything has changed for me. Just see what reward I have got. This year, now a year is run. This very day, what reward I am getting, now 1 year is over. So fourth stanza, there's nobody on the housetops now. So he begins the fourth stanza, he records the present thoughts. The patriot is being taken to the scaffold for his year's misdeeds. So he's saying that there is nobody on the housetops. Today when I'm being taken to the scaffold for hanging, there is nobody on the top of the houses. Now just a palsied few at the window set. That is, very few people who are suffering from the medical condition in which parts of their bodies, they shake uncontrollably. That is palsy. So few of the palsied people, they are standing at the windows. For the best of the sight is all allow at the shambles gate, or better yet, by the very scaffold's foot I trow. He says, well, everybody knows it very well that today the best of the sights is at the Shambles Gate. Now Shambles Gate is a place where people would gather together to watch the public hangings, or better still, if you wanted to get a better view of the hanging, it would be at the scaffold's foot. Now scaffold's foot is the platform on which the criminals are punished by being hanged or beheaded. So to get the best view, that is the best, it is all allowed at the Shambles Gate, or better yet, by the very scaffold's foot I trow. So everybody today, they know that to get the best sight or the best view at the execution would be at the Shambles Gate or the scaffold's foot. I trow means I believe. So begin with the fifth stanza. I go in the rain and more than needs. He says, he's recalling this situation where he's moving in the rain towards his end. that is more than needs. A rope cuts both my wrists behind, and his wrists have been tied very tightly with the ropes. More than needs means they are very tightly tied around his wrists, which is not required. So the rope is cutting both his wrists behind him. And I think by the feel my forehead bleeds. So he says, I get a feeling that my forehead is bleeding because I feel very wet on my forehead. For they fling whoever has a mind stones at me for my ears misdeeds. So the public that once regarded him with great respect is now throwing stones at him. So whoever manages to get a stone in his hand, he is hurling it at him, and his forehead is bleeding. And why are they hurling stones at him? Because of the punishment for the year's misdoings. It's not mentioned what misdoings are there, but he is being punished for the evil actions he has done during this year. So the sixth and the last stanza of the poem begins with, "Thus I entered and thus I go." So the poem, it ends very optimistically. He says that I entered the gates of death and now I am going to a life after death. So the speaker has resigned himself to his fate. In triumphs, people have dropped down dead. Paid by the world, what dost thou owe me? He says that he believes that in victory, the people drop down dead, but his imperfections will bring him closer to God. He hopes that since he did not receive his reward in this world, he will be rewarded in the other world. He says, now instead, this God shall repay. I am safer. He says, I am happy that God is going to give me reward for all my good deeds. I am safer in the hands of God. So he says, when people win, they have dropped dead. They have not been able to contain their happiness, and they have been applauded and rewarded by the world. When they are rewarded by the world, what dost thou owe me? God might question that you've been rewarded by the world. What do you owe me? What do you expect from me? But now he says, I have not been rewarded by the world, so I am going to get my reward from the God, because God, I'm safer with God Almighty. So the poem ends on a very positive note, but there is some ambiguity in the poem, because the poem tells us that a year ago, the patriot was a hero and he received a grand reception, but we are never told what had he done to be so popular. The readers are not even aware of the place and the time of the setting of the action. The speaker who leaped at the sun for his friends is shown later in the poem as being executed, but the reason remains unknown. The poem never tells us if the patriot is innocent or if his execution is fair. Thus, on reading this poem, readers are forced to ponder on a series of questions. Then the poem, it never tells us the reason for the patriot's execution. The readers tend to sympathize with him. Even if the speaker has committed a treacherous act, it is never made clear. The narrative gaps within the poem suggest that the narrator is hiding something. But Browning has very skillfully depicted him innocent. His innocence is justified with a sense of resignation in the end. The end of the poem suggests that the poet has now accepted his fate and knows that he has to answer only God, not the fickle-minded public. He feels safer with God rather than with the public. The idea of him feeling safer suggests that he has not committed any crime. His innocence is thus stressed by the poet. So the poem ends on a very optimistic note. Hope you've understood the poem. Thank you.